Hey guys, and welcome to another recent viewing video, and this is the second of two videos that I'm doing on some stuff that I covered or watched slash played during my couple weeks of not doing YouTube anymore. And anyway, this was the movie that I watched, which I showed on my recent pickups video, Mad Max Fury Road. I actually watched it two and a half weeks before it came out in the physical version. Because I pre-ordered it on Walmart.com, and I ended up getting a digital copy of the movie like that very day. So that was pretty freaking awesome how they did that. But anyway, I didn't grab the trilogy. I meant to do that before I sat down to do this. But anyway, the original Mad Max movies I really enjoyed. And I'm not sure if I've talked about this before, but when I was a kid, my dad really enjoyed Road Warrior, and we watched it together, and I watched it anytime it would be replayed on any kind of the channels we got over the years, and I really enjoyed it. And I also loved Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Those two movies were really cool to me, as, you know, like perfect 80s action movies. Sometime in the 90s, I sat down to watch the original Mad Max because I'd never seen it. That one just doesn't get the kind of airplay that the second and third movies do. And I was very perplexed with it. Like, I don't think I got it, so to speak. But I watched it, and I was like, okay, I've seen that. That's a thing. Well, a couple years ago, the trilogy of Mad Max movies were released on Blu-ray. And so I had to get those, especially because it wasn't that expensive. And I took the time, I think last year it was, to sit down and watch the three movies in a row. And I just loved it. I just ate them up. Really enjoyed it. The first one made a whole lot more sense to me on a second viewing, and I feel like it's a kind of a requirement to watch them all. And I knew that there were reports over the years that there would be a fourth movie at some point with Mel Gibson, not with Mel Gibson, but it felt like it kind of slipped into development hell and got held up a lot. And then all of a sudden, it was back. And I was eager to watch it. It was one of the movies this summer that's kind of wrapping up. It was one of the movies of the summer that I wanted to go see in theaters, and I just kind of talked myself out of it. And I kind of wish I would have seen it in theaters, because it was definitely the kind of movie that really fills the big screen up and blows you away, you know, in all the senses. But anyway, I finally got to see it here at home, and I loved it. I loved the fact that George Miller was back to direct. He directed the original trilogy. These were, you know, just as much his movies as anybody else. And to get him back all those years later to do another movie was pretty awesome. It doesn't have Mel Gibson in it. I'm not sure if that's anything to do with all the craziness in his world the last decade or so, or if they just legitimately wanted to kind of go with younger, fresher talent and as a reboot, because Tom Hardy plays the Mad Max character in this movie, and he is Mad Max Rockatansky, yeah. Interesting last name, but he plays that same character, like the same named character. But in this movie, he's very subdued. I guess Mel Gibson was in the movies, Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome in particular. He was not very talkative. He didn't engage a whole lot. He was just running, shooting, driving, kicking, you know. And that's what Tom Hardy does in this movie. But the driving force in this one, in my opinion, is definitely Charlize Theron's character of Hermosa? No. Furiosa, wow. She was the one who was kind of the driving force in the movie, both in terms of her performance and what her character is accomplishing in this movie. And I'm not going to get too much into the story. It's kind of typical of you know, Mad Max movies. It's post-apocalyptic, and everybody's looking for fuel and things to power their vehicles, because that's kind of the way of life in this time. If you can't drive and control that, there's not much that you can do. And Furiosa, has a moral obligation, not obligation, but like a moral mission in this movie to save these ladies and try to go to some place that they believe is better than where they've been. Anyway, I'm kind of failing at explaining it, but I don't really want to give it too much away. This is a fresh enough movie that people should just go check it out if they want. I did have one ill feeling, I guess, in the movie. Not ill, maybe so much as to suggest that it made me sick, but like, well, two things with the movie that were a little off for me. The beginning of the movie was kind of slow and it was kind of weird, especially involving the villain of the movie, this older guy with the the weird chest plate and mask, and all the bad guy characters in the Mad Max movies have been unusual to say the least. But they've all been kind of like desert punk kind of strangeness in that way, and this guy looked like they were almost like they were trying to create a Darth Vader. If I remember right, they had a scene near the beginning where he's getting his stuff put on him, and it was kind of like the scene where Vader, you can see him from behind and his mask is dropped down on his head. It was strange to see that in a Mad Max movie, and it was just confusing in the beginning of the movie, the way they were spending too much time setting things up. Most of the Mad Max movies, in my opinion, just kind of get going right from the beginning. And I heard a lot of people saying this movie was nonstop action from start to finish. That's not really true. Like I said, the beginning is kind of slow and awkward, and then there's a few parts throughout the movie where the action slows down. I think you have to do that. It's necessary. But I got the idea that this movie was just going to be like it would almost start with cars in motion and end with cars in motion, and it's not exactly the way it was, but that's an egregious nitpick there, so whatever. Your mileage may vary, no pun intended. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road. I loved it. It was really, really awesome. Definitely befitting the Mad Max universe. And if they decided to do more, I probably wouldn't be opposed to another movie, maybe two more, but after that, let it go. It's done. So anyway, Mad Max Fury Road, that's my thoughts on it. Really enjoyed it. And that's all I got to say. I'll see you in the next one.